Well, the Bible has a message for Wall Street. In fact, we find in the letter of James some valuable lessons, not just for Wall Street, but any investor or entrepreneur that has ears to hear. So stick with me all the way through to the end of the video, and I promise you that you will be rewarded for it, because the Bible's advice in the letter of James, if accepted, will completely change your life. As always, don't forget to smash the like button, because that will help push this video out to all of those Wall Streeters out there, but also more investors that can be blessed by it. So let's take some time and look at James chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. It reads this way: "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town, and spend a year there, and trade, and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil." Now, the valuable lesson that James wants his readers to understand is this: avoid any arrogance about future planning. So notice the picture that James paints for us in this scenario. You who say today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town and do this. You're going to spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Now, if you think about it, this is an ordinary way of speaking. But there's something incredibly wrong about what's going on in this scenario that James has given to us. So let's kind of think very carefully and think through this. James has in mind traveling merchants, and they are characterized as deliberate and self-confident planners. And James wants his readers to really see the presumption in the kind of planning that he's talking about here. So firstly, these people are presuming on time. Today, tomorrow, we will spend a year there. Secondly, they're presuming on choice. We will go into such and such a town. Thirdly, it's presumption on their ability to succeed. We will trade and we will make a profit. Now, please, James is not against planning. I mean, I doubt there's any board meeting in my city or in yours that's not talking like this. I mean, we're going to open a new branch here, we're going to invest capital there, it's going to take us about 12 months or so to return to profitability, etc. Of course they talk like that. There's nothing wrong necessarily with predicting and planning. Friends, the Bible encourages planning. It encourages business and productivity. There's nothing wrong with making a profit. By all means, what do you got to do? You got to plan your business enterprise, plan your life. But what James is criticizing is making these plans without any reference to God. They're planning only in reference to this world. James says, listen, go ahead and plan. But don't do it in this kind of godless, conceited fashion. Bring some humility into your planning. And how do you do that? Well, James says that one of the ways you do this is by acknowledging our ignorance. You do not know what will happen tomorrow, says James. Only omniscience can plan infallibly. We often speak and act as if we own time, but we don't own time. And because we don't own time, and because we don't know the future, we need humility. We need humility concerning our plans. You don't know what tomorrow will bring, says James. Wall Street, I think, really does need to hear this. They get on CNBC Finance or whatever financial network it is, and they talk about the stock market as if they know exactly what's going to happen 6 months from now. I mean, some of them are even predicting interest rates, that there will be 2 interest rate cuts or whatever it may be. I've heard again and again that the crash of our lifetime is going to happen in the year 2024. But think about it. Who in Wall Street knew 1 month ago that Iran was going to launch an attack on Israel yesterday? Nobody. James would say, listen, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. Have some humility. Not only does James want his readers to acknowledge their ignorance, but we also need to acknowledge our mortality. He says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. James is insisting that we recognize just how short life is. Whether it be illness or accidental death, the return of Christ, many things can cut short our lives just as quickly as the morning sun dissipates the mist. Life is short, life is fragile. None of us know how much sand is left in the hourglass of our life. In Psalm 144, the psalmist says, "Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow." We live as if we have an infinite amount of time, but we don't. Some time ago, I had a close friend wake up one morning and he went to the doctor and he found out that he had 8 weeks to live. A terrible time. You know, some of us, we're making plans as if we are confident that we even have it tomorrow. There's a parable that Jesus tells about a rich farmer. And the farmer was successful. He had a bumper crop, but his barns were already full. So he said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear down these barns and I'm going to make bigger ones, and my soul will be at ease. You see, he thought he was secure until God came to him and said, "You fool, your soul will be required of you tonight." Friends, we can't predict tomorrow, and we can't buy life. James wants his readers to see that all of our planning hinges on a big if. You ought to say, "If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that." Friends, you may have an expertise in business that nobody else has. You may have a skill that is very rare. You may have connections all over your city that gives you an advantage, that gives you an edge in business. You may be as healthy as you can be, but ultimately, when you pull the curtain back, it is only if the Lord wills that you will live. If the Lord wills, will you do this or that. So let us learn to qualify all of our plans and our hopes and our dreams in reference to the will of the Lord. Now, we may not always attach the statement, God's will, to everything we say. In fact, I don't even think that is what James is encouraging for us to do. But it's that the principle is to be fixed in our minds, that there must be an appreciation of God's control over our lives. So let us engage in business and finance with a recognition of God's sovereignty and with a deep dependence upon Him. To live without this humility, to live without this dependence is evil, says James. You know, I watch mixed martial arts, and every now and then you'll hear about one fighter that gets interviewed and they're talking about their opponent, and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, my opponent talks a big game, but he's nothing." You know, some of us talk a big life, don't we? And the assumption behind our talk is that we are in control. We live like the famous poem by William Henley, "I am the master of my fate, the captain of my soul." Wake up, says James. You see, a failure to take God into account when we're planning has at its root pride. You boast in your arrogance, and all such boasting, says James, is evil. So it's not simply that we leave God out of our planning that is evil, but we brag about what we are going to do. Some of us, you know, we're singing Frank Sinatra's song, "I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and much more than this I did it my way." Now please don't get me wrong, I love Frank Sinatra, I love the song. But we're not the captain of our lives. Sure, we play a part, but we don't steer the ship as much as we think we do. James wants his readers to avoid any arrogance about future plans. The Bible says that there is a God who is in control of this world, and his name is Jesus Christ. And the wisest thing we can do is take some time and read the Bible and figure out how Jesus wants us to approach life. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and God bless you in the way.